Y'all, I'm in Texas right now, so I'm a little thrown off. But here we go. All right. So I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they were asking what makes a good agent. So just so happened that Sam contacted me and asked if I would mind sharing some thoughts with you guys. And I was telling him how had been answering this question today, and he stated that how to be a great agent. So whatever the case, I just kind of wanted to go over this question because, believe it or not, you need to be able to answer this, right? So, what makes a good real estate agent? Well, if you're looking for the canned answer, you're going to get something like communication skills, market knowledge, negotiation skills, honesty and integrity, problem solving abilities, and attention to details. Well, if you've been on the opposite side of a deal with many of these realtors, you know that there are not too many that pay attention to the details. You would think that honesty and integrity would be a given, but you'd be surprised, right? We're supposed to keep our businesses client focused. But how many times have you been on the other side of a deal and you can tell the agent wants this more than their client does, right? The commission breath is just coming off of them instantly through the phone. The market fluctuates all the time. So to me, market knowledge is relative, right? Many agents think that they have good communication skills or problem solving skills, negotiating skills, until something unexpected comes up. And then they simply try to avoid the problem, right? So, what makes someone successful in real estate? Because it's one thing to be a good agent, and then you need to figure out how to be a successful real estate agent. Well, again, if you Google it, a strong work ethic, effective marketing strategies, continuous learning and improvement, client referrals and repeat business, strong financial management, and a positive attitude. At least this is what ChatGPT will tell you. So, thank you. However, when you think about it in your own business, I want you to think about how much of that are you actually doing? How much of this is true about you? I want to touch on these things individually, and I want you to ask yourself if this honestly describes you. Do you take the time to learn more about your craft? How much time per week do you spend, per week or per month, reviewing the stats of various parts of town or neighborhoods? Do you only do this when you're looking for a home for your buyer client or when you're about to go on a listing appointment? Do you look up the stats on a monthly basis, and instead of just copying and pasting it into your newsletter or social media post, you actually read the information and understand it in a way that you can speak intelligently about it, not only to your fellow industry people who theoretically should have an idea of what you are speaking of, but you can also explain it to a layman who does not do this every day. Are you able to communicate this information to a potential client? Are you not only able to understand how the process works, but can you articulate that to a potential client? And more importantly, have you thought about and planned what you're going to say when explaining how the process works? See, one of the things that we get to work on in this business is how to get the business, right? What do I say when they say no? We all follow the algorithms. If they say no, say this. If they say no, say that. But have you thought about what to say when they say yes? How are you able to articulate your value and all of the details regarding the contract, the process, and why these things are important? What are you saying? We're supposed to have effective marketing strategies, but then we don't track what the results are of our efforts, right? Continuous learning. How many of you have heard of RDR? Realtors don't read. I've been called a contract specialist, but all I do is actually read the contracts. We're supposed to have strong financial management skills, but I know a handful of agents who literally owe back taxes and have their checks garnished. I mean, how is that agent going to be able to honestly and fairly advise their clients on what the best use of their investment funds are? And finally, a positive attitude just drives me crazy because many times agents feel like this is just supposed to come naturally to them, and it just doesn't. It's something we all have to work at constantly. So I want to go over these ideas and give you some actionable steps that you can take to address these things and hopefully either tweak or add to what you're already doing to help you grow. Okay. And we've got some people joining us. So yay, welcome everybody. So let's go over some of these, right? Honesty and integrity. If we really need to address this, then please just find a new sales position to get into, maybe cars where they expect you to talk out of both sides of your mouth, whatever. Communication and negotiation skills. Communication comes with practice. I hate role playing. I hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. But it really is a necessary evil. So if you're not going to do it with others, at least do it with yourself. I mean, speak in front of a mirror or in front of a camera, trying to write out questions that are posed to you and then write out or record your answer. Go back and listen to it, reread it out loud or watch the recording, right? And think about how that makes sense to you. Think about the words that you're using and what the specific words might invoke when someone opposite you hears them. I've always taught that when offering to cover an appraisal gap, for example, use the word guarantee. It gives the seller a sense of security when other offers just don't. So think about that when you're listening to yourself. What words convey specifically what you mean, and how can you make it more clear to the listener? Many agents look at negotiating as a zero-sum game. In order for me to win, you have to lose. But that's not what you should be doing if you're negotiating on behalf of someone else, your client. Their goals might be different than yours. You need to be working for your client, not for what you want. This one can sometimes be tough because I am more competitive than many. So when it gets a little contentious, my fighter side comes out and I just want to win, right? But I always have to remind myself that the ultimate goal is to get the client the house or get the house sold. I got to push without allowing it to break. We tell our clients that they have to be willing to walk away. And then we get emotionally attached because the other agent is an ass or an idiot. Had that one recently. But you want to stop and remember what your goal is, right? So think about what you're saying when you're speaking on behalf of someone else. When it comes to market knowledge, every week you should be looking at what's on the market. Maybe not for the whole county, but for the areas where you specifically work at the very least. Take the time to go to the lunch and learns that your lender hosts. Find out what interest rates are doing, right? How is the capacity of the company, and will they be able to close a 12-day VA loan? I mean, sometimes, like during COVID, there are just too many deals in the pipeline. And so we needed to write 12 days instead of 10. On the East Coast, a 45-day escrow was totally expected. In San Diego, I wouldn't have gotten a deal accepted had I written that in. Schedule in at least 1 day a week to learning your craft, study your market, work on what you're saying, and study the contracts. For effective marketing strategies, continuous learning, improvement, and strong financial management, right? These all kind of get tied together. How effective are your marketing strategies? You should be asking these advertisers what you should expect to receive when they're asking for your marketing dollars. If they cannot give you the numbers, then you cannot run your numbers to figure out what your return on investment is or your ROI. Additionally, here's a thought. Take the time to actually run those numbers and see if it's worth it to you. Statistically, what should you see as the ROI? Because this will help you understand not only if it is effective, but where you may need to change your practices. If I should get 6 groups in to an open house and I'm only getting 2, then I need to work on my marketing of the open house, right? If I'm getting 12 groups into an open house, but not averaging 1 client every other open house, then maybe what I'm saying at the open house needs to be tweaked in order to capture more clients. And getting your name out there is not a reason to include something in your marketing plan when you're actually having to spend the dollars on it, right? There are ways to do that without spending your money with some of these salespeople. Oh, and have an actual plan, an actual budget that you can work with. My favorite line when some of these salespeople call is, "I'm so sorry, all of my marketing dollars have been allocated for this year." They don't know how to respond to that. It means that they missed their shot. This will also help with your strong financial plan. How are you spending your money, and what is the return on investment for each dollar that you spend? Where is your money going in your business? Spend some time learning your contracts or something new in the business. I literally spend a minimum of an hour per week reading a contract or a piece of one, looking up some legal Q&A, or watching the classes that are offered online. This helps me with the next one of problem-solving abilities and attention to detail. This one seems funny to me because how many agents know that there is an escrow company called Seller's Choice Escrow, located in Covina, California? When an agent writes in seller's choice and the seller accepts it, they should actually be using this specific escrow company. The details matter. The details are what allow you to work through the problems and come up with various solutions. I've been through some really challenging transactions, right? But the state of California has been through way more. And they have a form for damn near everything. If you take the time to check some of these obscure, rarely used forms, it helps keep your mind sharp and able to think a little outside of the box to come up with solutions that help everybody win. Right now, you need to be studying the BRBC if you're in California. If you're not in California, then it's whatever your buyer broker agreement is called in your state. And everyone, everywhere should have some document regarding insurance. For my California agents, look up BHIA. There are a ton of forms out there that can be used to creatively solve a problem or address something that you may want to have in order to protect yourself or disclose to your clients. Client referrals and repeat business is what your goal should be to be a successful agent. To have a fully repeat and referral business, the way that you do this is by providing value to your clients and having a plan to keep in touch with them and stay in front of them. Put this into a plan and stick to it, which brings us to the last 2 points, which is a positive attitude and a strong work ethic. Working for yourself can be tough. It can oftentimes be lonely, and if you aren't careful, it can lead to complacency. It's very easy to lose focus when you are your accountability partner. Design your schedule to include positive affirmations, networking events, classes given by industry professionals, and those you admire. While these things seem goofy or cheesy, they really do work. As part of my business plan, I have it in my calendar to attend 4 seminars per year where I sit down and go rah, 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 right? Get a kick in the ass and find that motivation, find something that just little jolt, right? And I had a buddy of mine that made fun of me when I went to go see Tony Robbins, the whole walk on fire and all that jazz, right? It made me feel a little foolish because he kept teasing me about it until I thought about it, right? Would I rather listen to the billionaire tell me that if I jump up and down and act like a monkey, I could possibly make $1 million? Or Listen to the fat guy drinking at the winery on a Tuesday at 10 a.m. bitching about how his recent deal fell through. I think I'm going to take my chances and dance like a monkey, right? So if you missed it, the actionable steps that you could incorporate are as follows, right? Schedule 1 day per week to work on role playing, even if that means that you're by yourself. In fact, I prefer this way because it forces me to sit down and think about it a little bit more. Write out the answers to a question that you were recently asked or one that you know is going to be asked, right? Record yourself answering it so that you read it out loud, and then go back and really study if that's how you want to communicate your thoughts to a client. Change the specific words so that you're very detailed in how you are communicating. Schedule 1 day per week analyzing the market and understanding the stats that are given to you by your associations. Then do the same things, as I said, about writing it out and explain this to someone else. What does this actually mean when you're explaining it to someone? Schedule a minimum of 1 day per week to go to a networking event, a class given by your brokerage or your lender, something that will get you outside perspectives on what is going on in the market. If nothing else is going on that week, pull up the legal Q&As that your association puts out and start reading. Similarly, once per week, pick a contract piece and get to reading. Then do the same thing as before. Write out how to interpret each piece of that contract or that particular page, interpret it, and then record yourself explaining this to someone else, right? Go back, watch it, make sure that you're saying what you mean to say. Writing these things out is really important. Big thing, big thing, right? Is to track your marketing activities daily or at least weekly. This is especially true if you are spending the day cold calling, door knocking, or doing open houses. Each time you do these activities, you want to track how many people you spoke to, how many of them gave you their information, how many of them accepted your call when you followed up, how many of them agreed to an appointment, right? This number should get smaller each time. And kind of keep drilling down to figure out the response and what the result is of all of your actions. Track each step so that you can see the patterns that emerge to help you get better. One of the things that Sam always says, right, and we've all heard it before, is success leaves clues. You can only catch the clues if you're tracking them. Put it into your schedule to have once per week to call your sphere of influence. Again, you should be tracking this and doing it in a strategic manner. I've given several classes on how to do this. But at the end of the day, reach out to your clients, right? Your clients, your sphere, your friends. Make sure everybody and their grandmother knows that this is what you do for a living. And finally, put it in your schedule to read a little every day. Watch a positive video or something, right? TED Talk. And remember that sometimes we all need a kick in the ass or a reboot about once per quarter. Schedule it in, pay for it, and then play full out while you're there. Believe it or not, the more of these activities that you do, the easier the conversations with potential clients become. The easier the conversations become, the more your confidence climbs and the higher your capture rate becomes. The higher your capture rate becomes, the higher your confidence, the easier the conversations. And before you know it, you're in this continuously positive loop and can actually become a successful agent. So I hope that you guys found this useful. I am trying to look now because we've got quite a few people on here. So I'm trying to see if you guys have any questions. That's all I have for you. Sam kind of threw it at me that he was not going to be on the call today. So yeah, does anybody have anything? It says lower all attendees' hands. Does anybody have their hand raised? Anybody have a question? Anything along those lines? Okay. I'm not seeing that happen. So hopefully you guys got a little bit out of this. I'm really looking forward to getting back into training and coaching more and helping agents work through some of their challenges. You guys have a tendency to contact me one-on-one. So if you want, though, please follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I think I'm on Twitter or X. I'm listed at Molly Winkle Inc. INC. Will I send the recording? I don't know. Trey Realty is asking if I will send the recording. I don't know. I know that it is recording to the cloud, which means that Big Block will get this, Trey Houston, that Big Block will get this video in their cloud, and however it is that they are sending it out, that's how they'll do it. I'm not really sure. But thank you for participating, because this is a little weird to just be sitting here staring at a screen talking. I'm not used to this. I'm used to more people having participating and having faces and everything looking at me. So it's a little bit different. Okay, so if that is it, like I said, it's Molly Winkle Inc. INC. Because I'm not very imaginative in my business name. And you can follow me there, or you can always send me a private message. I'm happy to help any way that I can. And then, of course, for my Big Block agents, anytime you have questions, you can email into broker@bigblockrealty.com. I am not answering those calls anymore, but Kim's always there to make sure that you guys are taken care of. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful week. Go and read some of these contracts. Go and write out some of these things that you need to be saying. You briefly mentioned, thank you, Johnny, you briefly mentioned about having some insurance and BHIA form. Could you please elaborate? Absolutely. Okay. So if you guys, by chance, if you follow me on Facebook, I posted I'm on LinkedIn too, but I posted a case study that I had recently, because insurance issues are this is a systemic problem throughout the nation. So insurance companies are raising insurance rates, and sometimes they are leaving the state, or they're dropping people flat out. My mother's insurance company, she's owned the same house for 43 years. And she had the same insurance company that whole time. They actually dropped her this winter without any kind of explanation, anything. So she had to scramble and go find insurance. This is becoming an issue because building costs have gone up. There was some fraud in Florida, which led to a domino effect across all insurance companies in general, but replacement costs have gone up, right? And so that's causing interest rates to go up, and some places where you're just not able to get insurance at all. In Florida, I know that along the coastline, some insurance companies are not willing to insure those properties at all. In California, we've got some things like fire areas, high fire areas, and then you've got mudslides and flooding and all this kind of craziness, right, that's gone on this year. So insurance companies are dropping out of the state, or are not insuring some properties, flat out not insuring them, because the risk is not worth it. For this reason, we're finding that people are not necessarily able to get insurance as easily as they thought. And so you're finding yourself in a transaction and the property is uninsurable. Okay. It's rare when it's uninsurable, but what's not rare is that it is really expensive relative to what we've gotten used to over the years. California has a law specifically, and I'm not sure on the details of it, but specifically in California, there is a law where insurance companies are not able to raise rates over a certain percentage, the state has to allow it. This is kind of, again, it's a systemic issue and it's circular between what the state will allow and what the insurance companies need to do. And so this is running into a problem. This is one of the reasons why, again, specifically in California, insurance companies are leaving the state because they're not able to raise rates. And so they're just dropping clients straight out. And so that's why I would make sure that you read that BHIA form and make sure that you're having a discussion with your clients, with your potential buyers about insurance. Make sure you're having this conversation so that they're not waiting until the last second to get insurance and realizing that insurance is going to cost them 3 times what they were anticipating. And now they no longer qualify for their loan, or they're just so uncomfortable with the payment, they don't want that house anymore. They are not willing to take that risk. By the same token, when you talking to your sellers, this is not going to be the BHIA form, but when you're talking with your sellers, you need to find out, you know, are there any issues? Have you gotten a notice from your insurance company that your rates are either going to go up or that they're going to drop you? Do you have any claims on your insurance, right? I'm currently selling my personal home in Bonita, and if you guys have followed me over the years, you know that my house caught fire. I had a garage fire about 3 years ago, 2021. And so that was something that we had to disclose, obviously. But that's something where their insurance company is going to get that information when they go to apply for insurance for that property, because their insurance company is going to pull the CLUE report, comprehensive loss underwriting explanation, I think. I don't remember what the E stands for. But that is what insurance companies use to talk to each other and say what happened with the property and whatnot. So you need to be having these conversations with to make sure that you're touching all of these bases, right? So by to kind of bring it back into what we were talking about, just by coming to a class like this and having a discussion about insurance, you are able to find out what some of the issues are that other agents are seeing, so that you have the ability to go back and think about, how do I bring this up with my potential buyer or potential seller, to just have the discussion and explain to them what's going on, what's happening, and how we are mitigating some of these risks or dealing with them, right? In the case study that I had, we actually had to do a wraparound loan, or WRAP, which is a form of seller financing, because of an insurance issue. So these are some of the things that you want to address with your clients and understand how to communicate that. I cannot stress that enough. The more when I started in this business, and you guys have heard me say this before, that when I first started in this business, I was like, oh my God, what if somebody actually wants to work with me? Like, what the hell am I going to do? Right? Because I really did not know what the hell I was doing. I didn't have any confidence at all. And so I just started learning. And the more I was able to learn about it, and the more I heard about things that were going on in the industry and other people's experiences, the more I was able to think about how I would deal with that situation, and then how I would explain that to somebody else. And the conversations just got easier and easier and easier, and the trust was built. And the more the trust was built, the faster my business was built. And it just kind of builds on itself. Said the word built a whole lot there. So hopefully, Janaki, that kind of answered your question on what I was talking about, and then also was able to help you kind of understand the reason why you want to go back and look at some of these forms. Some of them are really obscure and really like, when the hell would you use this? And then some of them, you read them and you're like, oh my God, somebody got sued over that. And that's the reason for this form. A story that I like to explain is when I was in Maryland. I was selling real estate in the state of Maryland, and I was in Frederick, which is a um, agricultural area. And so we had what I called was the smelly addendum. And that was an addendum that you had to have your buyer client sign stating that they understood that they were moving into an agricultural area and that every once in a while it smelled like shit. And it did. We bought our house sight unseen, and the internet does not come with scratch and sniff. And one morning I walked out of my big, beautiful house in Maryland, and it was like, oh my God, they had just fertilized the fields and it literally smelled like shit. So when I started selling real estate, I was like, oh my God, somebody sued because they bought a house, walked out of their front door. It smelled like shit. And they sued their realtor because their realtor didn't tell them, even though we were 2 miles from farmland, right? And so there's an addendum for everything. Take some time to go look at some of those. Johnny says, yes, thank you. Welcome back. So happy to see you and hear you. Thank you. You're an absolute icon. I always learn so much in every class that you give. Thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that very much. Can we use this as a contingency, like an insurance contingency? If yes, where do we put it on the RPA? No, it is not necessarily it's not a contingency in and of itself. But this would be in your due diligence, right? In your inspection process. Part of the inspection process, we think of, because that is a good question, right? We think of the inspection as the physical inspection, the pool inspection, the termite inspection, yada, 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 right? But part of that inspection process is ensuring that you are able to insure the property. So that's the time period that you want to be doing this in. And again, this is why I say coming back, the BHIA forces you to have that conversation with your potential buyer. And so that basically, so you don't forget, right? You have these conversations. Just like you have a listing appointment where you're going to go over how the process works with your sellers. I have buyer appointments where I sit down. We do not look at houses in that moment. I shouldn't say that day, but it's normally not that day. But I have a buyer appointment where I sit down and I go over every step of how this process is going to work. And I make sure that they understand and they're prepared for the paperwork that's going to come. So that way, when you are ready to write an offer and things are moving crazy, I know that we're in a very fast market right now. You're not trying to explain the very basics of the paperwork to them because they have no idea about it. That's part of it, is what are you saying? You don't want to be like, I don't know, what does that say? Let me read that form real quick. You want to have already read it. That way, when they ask you about it, what does this mean? What does that mean? You already have your canned answers that's in your vernacular. You understand what you're saying. And if they ask for follow-on questions, you're able to communicate that and explain it in more ways than just one. Remember, we need to meet them where they are. So hopefully that answers your question. Is that it for everybody? Everybody's still online. This is great. Thanks again. Fantastic. Okay, so if that's all everybody has, I don't want to keep you too long. Just remember, right, to spend one day, your admin day, right, one day per week, writing out your schedule, making your phone calls to your sphere, reading through the contracts, put it in your schedule. I cannot emphasize that enough. Put it in your schedule. And anytime that you go do something for marketing, you want to track what you're doing, what the result was, and very specifically dig into those details. That's what will help you learn where you need to make adjustments, where you need to tweak, and you'll get better at explaining things to people. So hopefully y'all have a wonderful week and that I see you again soon. I'll actually be back in San Diego on March 8th. So hopefully I'll see some of you guys out there. All right. Thanks so much and have a great day.